In this episode of the EdUp AI podcast, I want to think about conversational chatbots. Many of us, especially educators, are thinking about ChatGPT, Claude, Google Gemini, and maybe some other programs. But conversational chatbots in many ways are one of the main ways that our students are going to interact with this technology. So I'm going to do something that is a first time for the new version of the EdUp AI podcast. I'm going to start with a very basic demo. I'm going to open it up on my end, and it'll take a second. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Jason. Just vibing here in the digital realm, ready to chat about whatever's on your mind, what's on your agenda today.
I've been thinking a lot about education and artificial intelligence. So how do you think education is going to change in the world of AI?
That's a great topic, Jason. AI has the potential to revolutionize education in so many ways. Picture this: personalized learning experiences tailored to each student's unique abilities, 24/7 virtual tutoring, real-time feedback and assessments, and even AI
That's really interesting. Do you think personalized AI tutoring is going to take off, or do you think it's going to be a fad?
Personally, I believe personalized AI tutoring has the potential to stick around and make a real difference in education. It's all about meeting the individual needs of students, and that's something AI can do very well. However,
I do get that. That makes sense. So what do you think a learning community is in this world?
in this world, I think a learning community is more like a digital campfire, a place where people gather to share knowledge, experiences, and ideas. It's not just about absorbing information, but also about interacting, collaborating, and building connections with others. With AI, we have the
And I'm going to stop there. I wanted to start with that product demo just to give you a sense of what I'm talking about. That was Pi. It is a chatbot that is created by Inflection, and their whole point is to create a chatbot that sounds a little bit like your buddy. There are a couple of parts of that video, of that demo, that I want to focus on. The first is how personalized it is. If you didn't know, if you may have noticed that it referred to me by name. It had a bunch of information about me from past conversations. So if you go into Pi, and you can use it for free from your cell phone, you don't create threads. That's one of the big differences between this kind of chatbot and something like ChatGPT. You don't create a thread. You have an ongoing conversation. So, but by the end of it, a computer program has a ton of information about you. Basically, whatever you fed it, whatever information you gave it, it can use later on in the conversation. The other thing I want to focus on is just how real it sounds. When I interact with ChatGPT out of the box and I don't let it know anything about the style that I want it to take on, it does not feel like I'm interacting with a human being. It feels like I'm interacting with Wikipedia that can talk, right? That's basically it. So one of the things with Pi is that it blurs in a very real way that distinction between human and AI. And that's where I want to dive into education, because if you're listening to this podcast, you have an interest in education and what AI means for it. I think this kind of program has a couple of huge ramifications for education, especially when we think about how it is going to continue to blur the distinction between human and machine. I think we're readily and very quickly moving towards a world where it's going to be a collaborative effort, that it's going to be less about what the machine does, right, and what the human does in separate spheres. Is we more about how they meld with each other. And that is a huge idea for educators. If you follow Daniel Fitzpatrick on social media, or you read his work. So Daniel Fitzpatrick is an expert on AI in education. He talks about this idea of teaching to the gap. And what it basically means is that the traditional way of approaching something like AI in the classroom is that AI can do something, right? It can do blank, and it cannot do all this other stuff. So as teachers, we need to focus on that other stuff. So he calls this teaching to the gap. Now, one of the things that we'll find as this technology gets better and better and better is that realm of the human gets tinier and tinier and tinier as the AI just takes on more capabilities. So what we need to do is we need to shift our approach. We need to shift our mindset. And we need to think about the collaborative aspect. What can we do with AI that maybe would have taken us a long time, or we just would not have been able to do at all? And I think that's going to be a huge shift in the classrooms. The other thing I want to focus on with this technology is the social implications of it. When you listen to something like Pi, and it sounds pretty human, and you can personalize it. I can actually switch out the voice. I picked the voice that was English because I like the way it sounded, right? But you can go through and change the voice in and out if you want to. So when we are going into a world that has this kind of technology, we have to think a lot about what connecting is, what it means to connect to a human, versus, if we can even use the word versus, what it means to connect to an AI. Are they similar? Are they different? How do they blend together? And that's huge for the classroom, because the classroom, my understanding, and this is very much the case at the college level, is that the classroom is a learning community. So what does this technology mean for community? It's going to be one of the big questions. What does it mean for connecting to another person and relating to another person? If we have an AI program that can sound like us, very much sound like us already, what does that mean going forward? And that's going to be one of the big questions as we move forward. And that's what I wanted to cover today. This kind of chatbot. What does it mean for the classroom? What does it mean for society? Now, of course, those are not two separate questions. The classroom, whether it is, in a formal learning environment or an informal learning environment, is a microcosm of the world at large. It is not special. It is a reflection of the world. So, what does this technology mean for us? What does it mean for colleges? What does it mean for learning communities? These are the questions that we will need to grapple with in the near future and forward. And that's it for this episode. If you disagree with me, if you want to reach out, if you want to talk, please feel free to use the comments, send me a DM on social media, whatever you want. And that's it for this episode. Stay curious, stay critical.